we took a big side quest here.
Side quest. That's a good way to put it.
All right, welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Geoffrey D. Calhoun, and I am, of course, joined by Kristy Leigh Lussier, staff writer and producer at WeFixYourScript.com. Kristy, thanks for being with us.
I'm always excited to be here.
All right, so this film analysis, we're going to break down episode 6 of The Wheel of Time. This one is called The Flame of Tar Valentin. Mm-hmm. I probably butchered that.
It's Tar Valentin, but okay. You know what? There's a contingency of people that say Tar Valentin with time.
All right. I saw the look and reaction on her face, and I went, okay, so we're gonna own this. All right, here's the logline. Moiraine faces the consequences of her actions. Matt faces the darkness in himself. Egwene faces the most powerful woman in the world. All right, so I'm gonna get into this for a second.
Yes, let's do it.
I feel like we took a big side quest here.
Side quest. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I'm feeling. Go ahead.
So this is the episode that I came to evaluate some things. And what I feel, or what I sensed when we arrive at this episode, is I think there's been a loss of who is the central character and whose story are we telling.
I think that makes so much sense. I was thinking about it today, and when you have an ensemble show, mm-hmm. It's hard to figure out whose story is this. But if mm-hmm. you use templates like Mad Men's Don Draper show, right? Breaking Bad, we know whose show that is. Game of Thrones, you can make an argument, but it's Jon Snow's arc.
Right.
It's his show. You can mm-hmm. argue it's other people. It is his show. He makes the overall arc. Mm-hmm. So when you look at an episode like this, you go, whose show is this?
Whose story?
And mm-hmm. it really is. Boy, you've got a hell of a point there.
Yes. Yeah. And I actually, honestly, so we've been watching another Amazon show recently, The Boys.
I love The Boys.
I love it. Love it. But it was kind of a moment even last night watching an episode in season 2. And I turned to Leigh and I said, overall, at the end of the day, I know whose central character this whole show is.
Yes.
And I can't say the same for The Wheel of Time, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're right.
I feel that there's a sense that we need to tell so much story about each character and their journey that you get muddled into an episode like this where who are we talking about?
And the way I agree with you, and the way the pilot sets it up, and I know I hark on the pilot, but listen, the pilot sets up the entire run of the show. The pilot means mm-hmm. a lot. A pilot should never be a throwaway episode. Right. So the pilot educates the audience on what this show is and who we should follow. So if we go back to the pilot, this should be Egwene's story.
Right. Yeah,
right?
I mean, essentially, she's one of the first ones that we see, and we kind of start a journey with her at the beginning together.
Yes, but the more you get into the show, you start going, is this Moiraine's story?
Right.
Because
Egwene's story?
Yeah, Egwene starts taking a back seat. And there is nothing wrong with having an episode here or there where you fill in a backstory or fill out a development for a side character. Sure. You can do that for a supporting character, but you still need to bring in the main character in that episode. They still get an arc, right? Because mm-hmm. television is broken into A, B, C, D, and sometimes even E plot arcs within one episode.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So when you get into this show or this particular episode 6, it's like, where did everybody else go? I mean, it's all very much Moiraine. And I'm going, okay, we're losing the thread.
Right.
And we're also, we've lost the tone a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It does take a tone shift in this one for sure.
It really does. Like in Game of Thrones, that show is very much intrigue. It's intrigue, it's political drama, and
Mhm.
it's masked behind a little bit of fantasy, a little bit of sorcery, and some, medieval action. But at the end of the day, that is a political drama filled with intrigue. That is what Game of Thrones is. I will die on that hill.
No.
Now,
Yeah,
this show has had very little of that political drama. It's had a little bit more of a YA feel to it,
for
of the
sure.
drama with the kids. And now this episode, we leaned heavy into the intrigue tone. And I was like, okay, it's different than what we've been experienced. We've had a little bit of the intrigue with, I want to say her name was Lalandra.
Leandrin, yeah.
Leandra, we've had a
Mhm.
little bit there between the characters, but we went full tonal shift in this episode,
Right, right.
and that can leave you a bit lost. And then it starts making you wonder, is this show trying to be everything to everybody?
Exactly, exactly. Because at some level, you have to establish identity of what you are and
Yeah,
lean into that and own that.
yeah,
And there are a number of episodes, even up to this point, and in this episode, where there's an identity crisis feel
yeah. Are
for
we
sure.
going? Are we going with horror? Are we going with dark? Are we going with
Right.
the YA? You can
Mhm.
have a YA love story that has a bit of horror. You can have it with
Sure.
a little bit. You can do anything with that because it's a love arc.
Mhm.
But we're going from horror to political intrigue to drama, and I'll pitch you this: Stranger Things. Is Stranger Things ever outside of its tone?
No, yeah, right,
Right?
right.
It's a horror show, right?
For sure.
But it
At the end of
has
the day.
drama at the end of the
Mhm.
day, and there's a little bit of YA there. But at the end of the day, you look at Stranger Things, you can say what it is.
Right.
And this show was struggling to find its legs. It
Mhm.
found its legs. And at the end of the last episode, when you and I spoke, I said, well, I really hope that they pick up the pace and they are able to move forward and not have almost like another slow episode where they struggle,
Mhm.
because then the show is gonna get tough. And
Right.
unfortunately, I feel like that's where we're at.
Right, right. I feel a sense of moving into this episode. It wasn't a necessarily issue of moving forward. You're clearly obviously moving forward, but I think it is you found your legs, but now you're trying to introduce so many other
Yeah,
aspects instead of carrying through with now you found your feet, right?
I agree. Yeah,
Mhm.
like I said earlier, it's a side quest. We did a lateral move, and
Mhm.
one thing this show has killed it on is the teasers, the beginning of the episodes. It has crushed it. I have really enjoyed the teasers of this show.
The opens, yes,
The
for sure.
opens, yeah.
Mhm, mhm,
This episode started out of the blue with a new character we've never been introduced to, and we get a big dose of who they are, and then it's the reveal that she is the God
She's the
help me,
Amerlin. Mhm.
the
She's the Amerlin seat. Yep.
Amerlin Seat, the Queen of
Yes.
Queens.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so we got a big dose. So we used up the teaser for that to get to know this character. I understand why they did it, but it doesn't sit within what we've established within the show.
Mhm.
Right, within the show, we've established killer teasers that have awesome twists.
Sure.
This was an origin story, and
Right.
they had to do it to make up for lost time, because they were building into this intrigue and mystery of the Amerlin Seat.
Right. Right.
See, that was built in from the very beginning episode, teasing that all along the way.
Mhm.
This is where it comes into, you make a decision about a show or you make a decision about a plot line, and you have to make sacrifices
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
in order to make that happen.
Mhm.
When you love an idea of something, you will make a sacrifice for that to
Right.
happen. But the question is it the right sacrifice?
Is it the right sacrifice?
Is
Yeah.
it worth it?
Mhm.
Because if you cut that and you just introduce who the Amerlin Seat was, pilot episode, right? We knew who she was, and maybe she didn't like Moiraine from the get-go, and we built that in consistently. Okay. And then we could use this teaser to grab the audience in a different way.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's an interesting take on it for sure.
And then the big reveal that they're lovers is even more powerful.
It's a bigger payoff.
We've built that out over an entire season. As it is now, I was just introduced to this character. You hit me with a heavy dose of her origin story so I understand who she is. And then we know the power of the seat, and we get the big moment of Moiraine throwing herself at the feet, which was powerful. I'm not going to lie. It was a moving, dramatic scene. But then when we get to the reveal that they're lovers, it doesn't have the impact that it could have.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I just met this character.
Right. And interestingly enough, in the book, we don't meet the Amyrlin in the first novel.
Okay.
She's not introduced until book 2. In fact, we don't even get to the White Tower until the second book.
Okay. So they're covering some ground here.
So they are covering some ground and kind of trying to pull from future source aspects. They wanted to get to the White Tower and have that introduction ahead of time, or at least earlier.
Probably because it's so built up early on in the show. They wanted to pay off visually. And I totally understand that. And I don't think it's the wrong decision. I just think or believe when you introduce a character within that episode, even though you introduce them in a really cool way where we feel for her because her father doesn't have a hand and she has to leave him, they built in a lot of story mechanisms and character development tricks to make you want to get behind this character and sympathize with them, right?
Sure.
And so that all was well done. It's just that structurally over the whole show, there wasn't any time for us to get used to this character. We're just hit with it. Hey, she's the Amyrlin seat, and they're secretly lovers, and there's this secret mission.
Right. And I again, opportunity could have been there and probably was there. In the first book, there's so much talk of the White Tower being the impending big, you fear the Amyrlin, you fear the White Tower. When you get to the point, you're in some deep water.
Yeah.
And that tension is built up. And I feel there were opportunities to possibly do that so that when you did get to this episode, again, it was more powerful, that moment of actually seeing her for the first time and Moiraine having to stand in front of her for the first time.
Yeah.
Because we're supposed to feel and know that these Aes Sedai are extremely powerful women in the world anyway.
Right.
And so when somebody sees an Aes Sedai or you're in the presence of an Aes Sedai, that's power. But then when an Aes Sedai is in front of the mother, in front of the Amyrlin, you're taking it to a whole new level. And there was missed opportunity to really build that tension through.
It's like they were trying to use the fact that the Aes Sedai is so powerful, almost like they're a mini boss, and then the queen is this like hidden boss level character that they're supposed to be afraid of. But I think showing her and developing her earlier on in the show would have allowed more opportunity of development, and then even making her out to be a bit of a villainous character could even build into that moment of, oh, she's soft and she's in love with Moiraine. Now, here's another reason why structurally it feels like you're trying to figure out whose show it is. Can I hit you with this?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So in the monomyth, right, Joseph Campbell's system of plot points, the monomyth, and I have my own system of in the Guide for Every Screenwriter, but in the monomyth, there's something called the reward.
Right.
Now, after the midpoint, a character goes through that death and return, which was 2 episodes. And then after that, they kind of deal with the aftermath and they recover. When they're done recovering, there tends to be a heart plot moment where they find someone that they love that means something to them emotionally, and they receive a reward, a new weapon, a new moment of truth, a new understanding, a new ability is gained through knowledge or whatever after they have had the rebirth moment and are met with emotional character. So Moiraine gets that.
You're right.
She gets that moment with the Queen of Queens. I can't get the name right. Because she gets the reveal of where the Dark One is and that he's at his weakest.
Mhm.
That is her reward for everything that they've been through. So it's a little muddy, because if this is a Egwene story, we should be getting that through her, but we're not. We're
Right.
getting it through Moiraine. So
Right.
again, it's an ensemble cast, and we're still trying to balance out character versus story. So that's why it can get a little confusing. Now, the way she earns that reward is through being ostracized from the Aes Sedai. And I thought that part worked.
Yes. Yeah. There has to still, the plan still has to move forward. They still have to keep this plan that they've had for years a secret between the two of them, that Moiraine is out trying to find the dragon, and Siuan knows, but can't reveal that she knows.
And I want to ask you about that, because the Aes Sedai cannot lie. So when she's asked to reveal the truth, she says, "I cannot say."
Oh, when she's asked by
when
Siuan asks her, "Do you know which one it is?"
And she says, "I cannot say."
She doesn't know.
Okay. So
yeah.
Okay.
She doesn't know in the show. In the book, we know that she knows. She never says it, but we know she knows.
Because there was another moment too where she can't lie, and then I'm not naive. Egwene says, "Oh, have you seen Matt?" And she says, "I have watchers out waiting for them, but I can tell you on good authority that they're safe." And I'm like, does she have watchers out waiting for them if they're already there? You know what I mean? So like, I feel like
it's her play on words, because Moiraine she's eyes and ears. She's Blue Aja, and they're supposed to be those secret eyes and ears.
Okay.
Girls that are keeping tabs on everything. So she's not necessarily lying. She is saying a truth.
Okay.
It's just not answering a direct question.
Yeah, that would be.
Which is, yes.
It's like being married.
Yeah.
It's just like,
well, I answered a question, but it's not the question.
Might not be what you were asking, but this is the answer I have prepped.
Exactly.
So we're gonna go with that. I did do the dishes a while ago.
A while ago.
Technically. All right. So all right. I'm really hoping that this thing gets back on track. You know, I mean, there is so much, from what I understand, that they're trying to cover.
Yeah.
That when they step through the gate, I mean, it has to be full on. Let's go. Let's get this thing going from here on out, or else the show is going to be struggling.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So so the end of episode 6, we have arrived at the Waygate, and they go through.
Yeah.
And then Matt is the only one that does not go through the Waygate, which was a story change, because that actor is not returning to the series.
Oh. Okay. So are they recasting him, or is that character just, are they writing him out?
He has been recast, so that character will stay. But essentially, initially, I believe that the idea, and in the books, he does go with them. They all go to the Eye of the World together. But this actor, they rewrote it to where he doesn't go through the Waygate.
Yeah, so it's easier to bring him. It's easier to bring him back then. I think that makes sense. So, speaking of Matt, I'm glad you brought him up. When you have a plot like his, with the darkness and the dagger and the evil from the Black City, I was frustrated because he didn't defeat it.
Right.
Moiraine walks in and she takes it away, and then all is good and Matt's doing awesome. And that, for me, I felt like unearned, because I wanted to see a moment where Matt fought it off, where Matt had that moment, or where he didn't fight it off and we see him kill somebody. Like, we saw him slice at her, but he's, it stopped, and then she took care of business. And I felt that was a disjustice to his character arc, because if you're going to put someone through that, let's see where it goes. Don't have this other character come in and solve it for him unless it's her story.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up, because this is where we start to have some questions about even the magic system
Okay.
in the series. And this is a big kind of discussion in the fandom right now as well, where these are hints of where I see the writing is starting to actually diminish the power of the magic system.
Okay.
This dagger is so powerful in the book that not one Aes Sedai could separate Matt from it. In
Oh,
fact,
okay.
they physically do get the dagger from him, but the darkness is still in him, that he has to actually go to the tower, and surrounded by a huge amount of powerful Aes Sedai, has to be removed from the darkness. The darkness has to be flipped from him. So he does go through a stronger arc and journey with trying to separate from that dagger.
Yeah.
But in this episode, the writing takes it to where Moiraine, is able to go in there and separate the dagger, and it's not a problem. And then Matt's fine.
Yeah.
And that's where we start to kind of go, okay, we just saw an episode 2 episodes ago where these Aes Sedai are fighting off a darkness as well, and they're kind of overcome.
Yeah, it took 9 of them.
It took 9 of them. But then in this episode, the power of that dagger and the darkness of Shadar Logoth is just as strong. It's the Dark One's power. It's the Dark One's touch.
Oh, okay.
And she's able to just remove it from Matt. So there's these questions of, we start to kind of evaluate, how strong is the magic system? What is the power level here? Who can do what? And what strength is where?
I can see why fandom would be frustrated with that.
For sure.
From a story system or from character development, what did Matt get? I mean, how did his character change? Did he change? Because to me, it feels like, I hate to say the F word, but to me, it seems like nothing happened.
Yeah.
He went through this entire journey.
Right.
And did he change from it?
Right. And I'm not sure we'll get that answer in season 1, because at the end of episode 6 is the last time we actually, unfortunately, do see this actor and this role. They are going to bring him back in season 2, but I'm not sure we'll get that answer, that closure in this season.
So maybe, I don't know, I can't say to this, but maybe sacrifices were made. Sacrifices are said a lot in this episode.
Sure.
Because of that casting situation. Perhaps that's what happened. But when I see a character go through something like this, of not knowing if he killed children, and being possessed by a demon, dark power, and then he doesn't even have the opportunity to show his inner strength to fight it off, and somebody else just walks in, hits him with the holy water, and he's all good to go. Then I start going, okay, why did we even have that other than to chew time?
Exactly.
And give the character something to do.
Or toy on this play that I feel they were going for, which is still questioning who might the dragon be, right? Yeah. They still want to evaluate and take that opportunity to give this audience a guessing game every episode of who could it be. And they still wanted Matt to be in that pool of, well, maybe it's Matt, because Matt has this weird darkness thing going on now.
So in the books, is it a big question, or do they just kind of tell you, like, we know who it is, and we don't have this big intrigue?
Yes. So interestingly enough, in Eye of the World, it is more Rand centered, where we do see a lot more POV of kind of Rand's perspective.
Okay.
But I honestly feel personally myself, and it can be argued in the fandom, that Moiraine is the central character in Eye of the World. It is her quest. It's her journey. She is out looking for this dragon and has been for 20 years.
Wow.
So it's interesting that they went more of an ensemble route in this one.
Yeah. I understand why. It gives them more opportunity to tell story and to kind of use that YA market. I mean, that's that's how they're billing it. But yeah, I mean, this show could have very much been done from a Moiraine set perspective. Absolutely. No question. And with Rosamund Pike,
why not?
I would be inclined to. Yeah.
Why not? Right?
She's so talented and incredible. I'm really curious to see where this goes. I don't dislike this show. And I didn't even find the episode boring. I thought the intrigue was good, and the intrigue aspect kept me interested on what was going to happen. I didn't have any reach for your phone moments, and that's all a compliment. I mean, I think
Oh,
I think
sure.
the
Yeah.
writing, I think the writing is there. It's just tonally trying to stay in touch with everything. That's
Right.
the
Right.
balancing act that I see the
Yeah.
show struggle with.
Yeah. And my favorite part of the episode is honestly the reveal of Moiraine and Swan and their connection and their relationship,
Right.
which has been in canon and spoken about in lore for years in that fandom, in the books, but we never directly see it. And so to be able to have that kind of payoff for the fandom,
Okay.
where we do get to see their relationship and their love on screen, is probably my favorite part of the whole episode.
Wheel of Time people are thirsty.
Yeah, they are. Thirsty, hungry, and
this is something
desperate.
that Wheel of Time fans have been waiting for.
For
then they should love the show because they dived into it.
Yeah.
I know we're not reviewing Boba Fett, but Boba Fett came out recently, and
I haven't gotten to see it yet, but I'm excited.
Oh, can I? Oh, all right.
Don't spoil it.
I won't say anything. The
tonight.
opening scene, I was like, yes, they went there, because I was worried they weren't going to go there, and they went there, and I was like, that's for the fans, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
So, I think it's important to throw in moments like that, and I'm glad that they were able to do that and to make it canon, which is cool.
Yeah.
All right. So this episode is brought to you by the Script Summit Screenplay Contest, where you can win $1,000 cash or the chance to get repped by a talent manager. We had 2 get repped last year. Script Summit is 100% worth it. You go to www.scriptsummit.com. Do you have any more thoughts for me, Kristy?
I'm just ready. I'm ready for you to see episode 7. I'm very interested to see where we go with it.
Now I'm nervous. That's like is that a good ready? Is that
No,
a bad ready?
Don't be nervous. I will say that I've gotten private messages and several messages from friends and people in the fandom that are very appreciative of the take that we're approaching in this realm, where we're talking about structure, and we're talking about, in TV kind of episodic television, here's where we would be, or here's a moment like this, and they really, really appreciate that. So what I'm looking forward to is seeing it through, and how we approach it and how we take it from there.
I'm really enjoying this, and we've had a lot of comments. We have YouTube comments, and people on Twitter have hit us up, and we're appreciative of you guys that you watch the show, you listen to it. It means a lot to us. We love doing this, and I think we do have a unique perspective, because all of these film reviews, movie reviews, TV reviews, or I think they call them reaction videos now, you see, they're all emotional based.
Sure, there's some emotion behind it.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a perspective from story of why this is happening, what is happening, why they're doing it, and how could they have done it in a different way from an educated professional like yourself. So So
it's exciting. It's interesting, and
I like doing it too.
Thanks to the fans for listening.
You get a couple of screenwriting instructors in here, and this is what happens. All right. So all right, we will see everybody next week.